Hey guys, welcome back to the TSU HPSS podcast. I'm your host, Post.
And I'm Shaw, and this is the Post and Shaw Show.
Welcome back to the TSU HPSS podcast. It's your host, Post.
And Shaw.
And we're here with
Jamesetta Cleveland.
Yes, so Miss Jamesetta Cleveland is Sports Mom University Consulting. And she's going to tell us a little bit about herself and what she does as a consulting.
So I run a firm where I help sports moms and their families navigate the stress of recruiting, name, image, and likeness, and going pro. And in our world, we do have athletes every year that go pro at their sport, but everyone is going to go pro at life. And so for us, going pro means how do you handle going pro at life? Because we treat athletics as a pivot, not as a plan A option.
Okay, great. What inspires you to become an advocate for athletes' rights and the business side of sports, as well as helping parents in that aspect?
I'm a sports mom, so I have 3 children, and part of what I required is academics, athletics, community service, and something artistic. And 2 of my children ended up being really good at the sport that they played. So I went through the recruiting process twice. And what I noticed during the recruiting process is that there was not a place for parents who wanted to raise a whole person. Everybody understood my kids as athletes. They wanted to train them. Some people wanted me to pay them to get them through the recruiting process, but I didn't raise them to be athletes. I just raised them that if you wanted to stop playing a sport tomorrow, you could. And so very few people respected that part about what I was raising. And so my oldest decided that she didn't want to do any sport in college. My son played 4 years of football at the Air Force Academy in Division I, and I launched my consulting firm after he graduated, the year he graduated, because I just built what I wanted when I was going through the process.
So in your experience, what are some common misconceptions or areas of confusion that sports moms have about the sports industry, and how do you clarify those?
The biggest misconception they have is that they don't understand sports as a business. Oftentimes, when people begin to think of sports as a business, it's when they've gotten to the pro level. But whether your child is 5 or 15 or 55, sports is always a business. So I help them understand that whether you might not be making money, but someone somewhere, even if you're playing at the rec league down at the park, is making money off of you. And that changes the way that they begin to parent their children. So that's the first misconception that we have. And then the other one is that everybody is there to help, specifically that your coach is there to help. And no disrespect to coaches at all. A lot of them haven't gone through the recruiting process, and they're learning right alongside you. When you look at guidance counselors, you can't get a college concentration that they have like a module on how to address student athletes, but there's no curriculum that walks a guidance counselor through how to actually guide a student athlete. So we're all doing it trial and error. So I tell them that you have to learn because you can't abdicate your child's future to someone else. It's unfair to your child, and it's also unfair to the other person who may not have the experience.
Okay. How do you approach educating that part to sports moms and families about the business aspect, such as NIL or other things like that, branding, endorsements?
So at my company, I'm always teaching a class. Education is one of our 3 pillars. We have awareness, education, and protection. And so I manage online communities of sports families. There are about roughly 15,000 sports families that I manage, and they play different sports, and they're at different levels. So being available to answer questions within the groups. I teach classes. At least I've created multiple curriculums for my sports families. So I teach at least 2 free name, image, and likeness classes every month, I had my second class of the month, which last night. I do conferences, consultations. So I'm always making myself available so that they can ask questions, speak with me, spend time with me. A lot of it's just education.
How do you see the role of sports moms evolving in today's sports landscape, particularly with the increasing emphasis on athlete empowerment and advocacy?
Parents are either going to learn or they're going to be marginalized. When I talk to athletes, especially the athletes in my world that are professionals, what I have learned from them is when parents refuse to learn alongside them, there was a wedge driven between them and their parents because they got to the point where they couldn't go home to get information. They couldn't go ask mom. Eventually, if you don't educate yourself, it becomes you can't tell me anything because you've never been here before. Mm-hmm. And for those parents who are willing to say, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm willing to learn alongside you, those are the parents who retain what I call trusted advisor status. Those are the parents that kids consistently, even if you're not an agent, no one's asking you to be an agent, but just the fact that you're learning alongside your child, when they have a question about something sports related or personal, they continue to come home and talk to their parents about those things.
So do you deal with, or have you dealt with overbearing parents?
All the time.
And how do you deal with that?
I'm going to be super honest and say you either like me or you don't.
Yeah.
I am not above pulling a card. If you are overbearing, one of the things that I consistently tell my parents is there is a definition of a contact and there's a definition of recruiting at ncaa.org, and both of those definitions include the parent. So you are an extension of your child. How you behave, how you speak, how you show up in the world can and does impact your child's future. So I say that, but I also, I have moms who are willing to share the things that they have done that have caused their kids not to have opportunities. And then I have friends who are coaches who come and talk to my parents about maybe they, maybe they don't draft a kid because of their parent, or maybe they don't offer a kid a scholarship. And so they hear it from me, but they also hear it from other people who've really been the problem and who've lost opportunities for their children.
Okay, to brighten things up a little bit, can you share of any success stories you've had or memorable moments with Sports Mom University that can highlight the impact of your efforts?
I would say one of the greatest things is, this is year 3. So 2 years ago, I represented my business at the draft. I had the opportunity to go to a pre-draft event and present. And every year for the past, this will be next week, I will be hosting an event at the draft as well. So it has been beautiful to go from spectator to actual participant. And one of my biggest success stories, I run a community. I want to shout out my friend Michelle Cadeau and her son Elliot, who plays at North Carolina. If you look at their name, image, and likeness journey, Michelle was one of my students when my class first started 3 years ago, and I love what they are building. So those are the two things that make me smile a lot.
Congratulations on that. So since you are 3 years in, what are some future plans and goals that you have for your company, and how do you envision it continuing to grow and supporting families along the way?
So my grand vision is to create an army of sports moms along the model of Lamar Jackson's mom. I love the fact that she is extremely powerful. He has negotiated 2 contracts with his mom. He doesn't have an agent. You don't hear about her. She is silently powerful. That is my ultimate sports mom. Like that's the blueprint. So continuing to provide education. She's going to come speak to my mom's. I'm speaking that into existence. But continue to provide education. And then this year, I will be doing at least 2 conferences on my own. We're going to be doing one in July. And it's really interesting. It's for naming, image, and likeness. We're going to talk about the power of leveraging community. So I'll be teaching classes, giving consultations, and a couple of more live events in person.
So to wrap up, what advice would you give to other parents who are navigating the world of youth and collegiate sports with their children?
I would say if you're a parent listening to this, one, recognize that sports is a business. Whether your child is 5 or 55, somebody's making some money off of them somewhere. The sooner you recognize that, the sooner you can start moving like a business. And never abdicate your child's future to someone else. You always want to make sure that you are in partnership, not in control, but in partnership with your child, navigating their future. And always be learning. Those of us who consistently learn alongside our children are the ones who continue to speak life into them when they become adults. We want to be assets to our children, not liabilities.
Great.
Thank you so much for talking to us. We really appreciate this.
Everything. We hope to have you back one day. And that is it for the TSU HPSS podcast. Thank you, guys.